Stop right there. Yeah, you. If you like all things entertainment, current events, or Hollywood, then look no further. Creator to Creators, hosted by director Meosha of Horror Noir, interviews filmmakers and creatives from around the world. Join in on the fun, guest celebrities, and informative information to have as a creator. Hit subscribe and stay connected to Creator to Creators.
Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Creator to Creators today. Today, we have a special guest.
Yes, Maurice Hall up in the building. What's going on?
Nothing much. It's so good to see you. It feels like it's
Good
been
to see you.
ages.
Oh, man, I know it has, though. I think, when was the last time I saw you? Maybe about at least 3-4 years ago, I feel
Wow,
like.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Is
great.
that Mark Ridley? And no, Tony Patterson.
The package.
That's
Yeah,
right.
the package.
Oh, my God.
And yeah, Tony and I actually have become writing partners. So we've written about 3 projects together. I think 2 films and a TV show. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's crazy.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Tell me, take me back to beginning. Where are you from and how was
Yeah.
your childhood? And then how
Yeah.
did you kind of find your way into the creative process?
So born in Miami, Florida. Yeah, born in MIA, baby. But I grew up in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
So went to high school, and then went to Ohio State. Was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to play football at Ohio State. But kind of in between that time, my parents are from Memphis, Tennessee. So we moved from Miami to Memphis, back to where they were from. I lived there probably until I was about 5 or 6. And, that was a trying time for my parents, as at that time they were addicted to drugs and had a lot of, issues going on during that time. And Ohio kind of got us away from all of that. They changed their life, made the decision to change their lives. And we moved to Columbus, kind of by ourselves, and gave me a very different life than they grew up in. And it propelled me, obviously, to be the first person in my family to go to college.
Wow.
I have 4 other brothers and sisters that, I was kind of the first one to really go and finish and graduate, and obviously, play football. And, during my time at Ohio State, we had some success in football where we won a national title. And, I was able to make some pretty significant plays during that season. So, it was a good career, and it was a good experience at Ohio State. And from there, I went to play with the San Diego Chargers, got picked up to play with them.
That's fantastic.
And yeah, and actually hurt my knee in camp.
Oh.
So that was pretty devastating for me. And during that time, I was, the thing about this is when I realized that NFL is a business. But, during the time, I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to tell anybody because, I want to play, I want to make this team. And one thing I didn't remember, that if you don't tell them that you have an injury, they could cut you and they don't have to pay you.
Wow.
But if you tell them you have the injury, then they still have to pay you. So that is something that I'll make sure never happens again. I went through a lot of emotions. Obviously, depression was a big one.
Yeah.
Because I had realized that, my life as Maurice Hall and my life as Maurice Hall, the football player, had become the same. And I didn't know myself outside of who I was as a football player, because, growing up as a 9-year-old, when you first start playing football, people, that's how you're labeled almost.
Yeah.
And, fortunately I had some success, but I wasn't sure how at the age of 23, once football was over, it was like, who am I outside of this? I majored in sports communications coming out of college, and said I was going to be a sports analyst once I finished. Now, the great part is I got an opportunity to do that. So
that's great.
So I worked as a sports analyst for the local NBC affiliate in Columbus for about 5 years, where I covered high school football, covered obviously Ohio State, covered the Columbus Blue Jackets, which is the hockey team, along with Cleveland and the Cincinnati Bengals. So, obviously it was mainly football, which was right in obviously my lane. But, something I love to do. I really enjoyed it. And I'll tell you how I got into acting.
Yeah.
So I actually got into acting when I was doing a high school show for NBC, and they were like, okay, let's throw it out to Maurice, on the field live. How's it going out there, Maurice? And I said, oh, it's going great out here. It's a sunny day. And back to you. That was the first ever live segment that I did, and it was the worst. And I got so nervous, and to the point I just froze up, and I had been so used to people interviewing me in the past but I had never been used to just looking at a camera and trying to just talk to a camera, so I had thought I had it and I did not have it. And I feel like everybody in the city saw it, and someone came up to me. He was like, hey, I saw your live TV. I was like, oh. And he was like, you should try like going to this acting class that I go to. And I was like, I don't want to be an actor. He was like, well, this might help you with your like the jitters of like being on live TV. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I went to the acting class for the first time, and I said, oh, snap, this is it. It was like a 6-hour class, and I loved every minute of it. And I was like, the same passion I had as a 9-year-old for football, this is it. Like, I could do this. You don't got to pay me. I just want to do it, And that's when I realized that was my next thing. Now that took me about 4 years to get there, because I hadn't, up until that time, it was rocky from 2005 when I graduated college to, the brief time I was in the NFL to end up moving to LA in 2009. It happened relatively quickly after that. So, but leading up to that, it was rough, but thankfully we got there, and, I was able to find my next passion, and, I just prayed about it. And I said, hey, God, this is what I think my next thing is. And if you want me to pursue this, I ask that you make it an opportunity for me to get to California, because I was like, I ain't got the money to go to Cali. Yeah, I don't have a savings. So, so fortunately enough, at the time I was working at Target. I was working as an HR manager at Target, and I got promoted.
Nice.
And they were going to promote me to another store within the city of Columbus. And I was like, wait, can you promote me to a store in Los Angeles? And, the good part is, Columbus, although it's a bigger city, especially if you played football there, a lot of people know you, and they knew I was acting in Columbus. I had done a few small projects there, so they already knew why I wanted to go to LA.
Yeah.
And they didn't tell the people in LA, the people I interviewed with in LA, they didn't say, hey, he's coming there to be an actor, so that was, shout out to them for that, because that would have changed things for sure. So, was able to get to LA, came out here the same day Michael Jackson died.
Oh, wow.
So that was January 25th.
Wow.
Not January, June 25th. Was the day Michael Jackson dies. That was the day we were moving into our apartment.
Wow.
And I moved out here with a guy that I met in acting class in Columbus, that we just found out we were moving to LA around the same time. So we were like, we should be roommates.
Yeah.
Save some money.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, we moved out here, that came in that day. And the apartment that we were in was MJ. How about that?
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's
man.
crazy. Talk
Great.
about divine, right?
I know, right? So
Oof.
it was apartment MJ, and so we were there, and I, had my job at Target, so everything was stable. And then Target found out I was an actor. Somebody looked me up, somebody Googled me,
Oh no.
and somebody had recently done a story on me saying, former Ohio State great moves to LA to pursue his career in acting.
Oh,
Gosh. So after that, I felt like everything changed.
yeah.
Like all my bosses, they were like acting
Of
different, you know what I
course.
mean?
Of
Now
course.
they're treating me different, and you know, making it a lot harder on me to the point where I had to leave.
Yeah.
Um, I had to leave for that, and for the fact that you know auditioning in Columbus and auditioning in LA are two different things,
I bet.
mainly because of traffic.
Oof.
Right? Like I can't leave work to go to an audition in LA and expect to be back within an hour.
No.
Like it's just not going to happen. And so that was the hard part, because I did start. I got here. I was able to get my SAG card really quickly
Nice.
through working background. And during that time, I got an agent and I got a few auditions that I couldn't go to. And then the agent's like, "What are you doing? Like, if you can't go to auditions, I can't rep you," And I was like,
That's
fair.
true.
So I ended up leaving Target, going to, and then just finding another job that paid me very minimal compared to what Target was paying.
Yeah.
I'm working at Target for 80 grand, and then I go to a job at Lululemon, which is like a high-end exercise clothing store, making minimum wage plus commission. So with the same bills.
Oh yeah.
So that was the hard part. And it took a lot for me to stay, because obviously everybody's like, "Why don't you just come back home?" My mom's like, "Maurice, come back home. Everybody knows you here. You got your degree, you got a master's degree. You could do great things here." And, I was telling someone that, there's a difference between success and greatness. And, I said I could have went back to Columbus and been successful, no doubt, but I wouldn't have been great. I wouldn't have been great at anything. I would have just been living a life of a normal, and I just don't feel like I was.
That. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's fine. And I just wasn't, that's just not my thing.
Yeah.
So, that was 2009. And
was it hard trying to get like acclimated into the LA world? Like you're like, okay, this is different. Was it hard to make friends?
It was, it was hard. I kind of, I would say now I still don't have many friends,
But you're
if
so
they're not.
likable.
Well, I know, but I don't get out much, and that's the one thing that I'll say I regret, when I moved here, because like when I was working at Target, I was, when I moved here for working for Target, we were opening up a brand new store. So I had to hire like 350 people in 6 weeks. And like, it was a lot. So I had no time to do anything else except my job.
Yeah.
And then as I was getting into the job, I was leaving, so now I have more time, but now I can't afford to go anywhere.
I see.
Because I was riding, because I had a Mercedes Benz that I had bought in Columbus. It didn't, 600, almost $700, which is a lot. But at the time I was like, I'm good. Like,
yeah.
but when you start making minimum wage,
right.
And then you realize like, oh, I got to do insurance. And then I got pulled over and they like, you need to get California license plates and that's going to cost you this. And I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
So I ended up riding the bus for 2 years straight.
Wow.
With the Mercedes Benz in the garage.
Wow.
And because I couldn't afford insurance. I couldn't afford to put gas in the car. Like, I was like, I'm gonna take this $20 a week bus pass.
And that's
man.
Real though. That's real. And that's amazing. But that shows me that you wanted it. Like, what you want. And it's not like that. You're not gonna fold. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of exactly.
whatever I got to do, man. So
Love
did that. And, it took me, I always tell 89 auditions. So from 2009 to 2013, I went on 89 auditions where I got a no.
That's insane.
And yeah. And finally, I got a yes in 2013 on the show called The Mindy Project.
Yeah, I love that.
On The Mindy Project. And then right after that, I booked another show called Sam and Cat, which is a Nickelodeon show with Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
I have a funny story about her as well. and then, it's kind of, been progressively going since then. Obviously in 2013 was a big year.
Yeah.
I booked my first 2 jobs as an actor. I got married in 2013. I started a new job that kind of gave me the financial opportunities I needed, because prior to that, once I started working at Lululemon, I ended up having to get multiple jobs. So I was working at Macy's and women's shoes at the same time. I was also working at an architecture firm as like the administrative assistant. I was working at a garage, like opening, at like a building where you like open a garage for people going in and out.
Yeah.
So I was doing all that. I was doing
on top of acting.
On top of acting. So 5 jobs total at one time, and it was a lot. Plus riding the bus. Wow. So, it was a lot. But that 2013, I got a job at a restaurant finally, because I had been trying to get a job at a restaurant and everybody's like, well, do you have any experience? I'm like, no, I don't have any experience.
Right.
Like, if you give me experience, I'm a fast learner.
Right.
But nobody wanted to give me an opportunity. And finally, I got a job at this place called Bandera, which is one of like the Hillstone Houston's chains. And it changed things for me. Obviously, financially, it gave me a lot more time to focus on acting, which I think was a correlation of why I started booking stuff.
Yeah.
It's been, like I said, progressively gone since then. And, in 2013, I also started writing, because I was like, man, I'm tired of waiting for people to give me opportunities.
Yes.
Man, we gotta create this ourselves.
Yes.
And I wrote, it was a ex-girlfriend of mine back in college, or right after college. We had made a decision we were going to write a book together. Like, I was going to write the male part, she was going to write the female part.
Yeah.
It's going to be like this romantic, hot novel. And we wrote like 1 chapter each. And I was like, okay. And I ended up finding it on like a jump drive in like 2012.
Wow.
And I was like, man, I bet I could turn this into like a script, and that's what I did. And it's called Shadow Love. And, we ended up shooting like 10 episodes of it on, it's on YouTube.
Nice.
That people can check out. It's a dramatic series. And, it was a learning process, obviously, because I was like, I was directing, I wrote it, I was producing it, I acted in it. I didn't do the main character because I felt like it was going to show me in a negative light, because I was like, I'm still trying to learn how to do this other stuff. I can't act in this too, as the main guy. So, so did that. And then from there, I just been consistently writing as well as, obviously acting, and, produced my first feature film in 2000. Started in 2014. It didn't come out until 2017 because of funding.
Yeah.
But that was a proud moment. I had a lot of people that I met through acting, a part of the project, and we made this romantic comedy and shot it, and it was and ended up getting picked up by Amazon, and was a great accomplishment from that standpoint as a writer, as an actor, all of that. So, now I'm working on the next one.
I love that. I love what you said. And I think we as creators, like you said, you're just tired of waiting, and you have to create your own opportunities.
You do.
I mean, look at Issa Rae. I mean, with Awkward Black Girl and where she is now. And I mean, it's just astronomical of her, And so it's like, I think that's what you have to do, is just create
100%.
it. That's what you're doing.
You just have to do it because there's so many. I mean, like, I would ideally love to be walking down the street and someone say, hey, you know what? You should be in this next movie with The Rock, right?
Yeah,
like, that's what I would love that.
Yes.
But the likelihood that that's ever going to happen is very slim. So I have to, so I'm like, okay, what stories do I want to tell? One, as a writer, and then what stories do I want to be a part of as an actor, or what characters do I want to play as an actor, and do it. Like, and the first thing is making up your mind that you're going to do it. Right. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because it's not easy. It's very hard, and you still need partners in order to make things happen.
Yeah.
But it still starts with you saying, I'm going to do this, because it's so easy to make an excuse and say, well, I can't do it because of this, because I don't have the money, or because I don't know the people, or because I don't, whatever. Just try. You just got to try.
Exactly.
You'll learn along the way, and somebody will eventually give you what you need in order to make it happen. And you'll be so, proud of yourself, because you didn't just sit around on the phone and wait for somebody to give you an opportunity. You made an opportunity for yourself.
Exactly.
And, and especially in this, and where we are now, it's not, the old school mentality is out the window.
Oh yeah.
We can do whatever. We can do
Absolutely.
whatever and put it wherever, and somebody's going to see it. So
that's exciting time that we're in, like you said, someone, and that's what social media does. I mean, it could be good and bad, but I think, it's a positive thing to, connect with people that you would never connect with. It's
absolutely
writing,
sure.
Directing, and you did your feature. I mean, I saw you've done so much. Like, as an actor, I always say, like, I saw you on was it True Story, the Kevin Hart
story?
That was so good. I was like, hey, look at him.
Yeah,
I pop in and see stuff of yours, like, I'll watch something else, see your face. I'm like, I love seeing my friends like killing it out here. I think it's so, like, I always wonder, is it, as an actor, do you get to the point where you're like, okay, like, what keeps you going? Like, it's like, okay, I haven't done this role, I want to do this, or is it just the next job, or what inspires you to keep it going? Because I'm sure, like, after, like, a Meryl Streep, right? She's been doing all the movies since she was a child. It's like, where do you go from having done everything? Like, what's next?
Absolutely. And I mean, so up to this point, like, obviously, there's a bit of a typecast where I book a lot of law enforcement, right? So like, but my mindset is, there's nobody out there that's better than me from a law enforcement role standpoint, right? Yeah. So I can play. So when I go into an audition for a law enforcement, or sometimes it's just a straight offer anyway. But when I know with the confidence, like, if y'all don't want me, then y'all don't want, you really don't want that guy, but, I also look at it, okay, what other opportunities can I come across that gives me other opportunities to show my range as an actor?
I see.
And I think part of that comes with, obviously, writing your own stuff, but also, updating your credentials, like, work on accents, work on other stuff that, people might not normally think is important, but, eventually you might come across, it's like one of those things where you always see people and you're like, man, they were like so right for that role.
Yes.
You're like, it's like Jamie Foxx, right? It's like, would we have ever thought Jamie Foxx would play Ray Charles? No. But he just happened to know how to play the piano. He just happened to know how to sing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he didn't just so happen, but those are so many things that were in his repertoire where they could have continued to cast him as, Jamie Foxx from Booty Call, or Jamie Foxx, the funny man. But because he had these other things, we could buy into, okay, he could play Ray Charles. He can do all these things already.
Right.
And I think that's what I want to focus on and continue to focus on, is continue to just get better as an actor and get other abilities under my belt where, if someone say, hey, can you do a Southern accent, or can you do a British accent, or whatever, or can you, obviously I can play football, but can you play an instrument? Can you, it's like all those different things that, might be something people need eventually, and they can say, oh, well, he actually can do this, So I think that's continue to work on yourself from that standpoint, and it'll definitely help in the long run.
Right. What advice would you give to an actor or someone that wants to get into this business? What does that look like?
I would say, there's a couple of things, and I welcome it. Like I always say, find a mentor, because there's so many, and it can be an overwhelming business. And a lot of people say, you have to also remember, like, it's not just about acting; it is business. Mm-hmm. And, it's a lot, it's about networking, it's about meeting people. And, I would say, a lot of the opportunities that I've had as an actor have been from, oh, I met this casting director in a workshop, or I met this producer somewhere, or, I know this actor that works on that show. Like it's so much about, the relationship aspect as it is about being a great actor. So you have to have both. You can be a great actor, but if nobody knows you, if you don't have any kind of contacts, it makes it extremely hard, And I think, like, I don't have a problem. I have no problem putting my friends in projects if they're great.
Yeah.
Because I know they're going to be great, and I know, I'm going to get the product I want. And at the same time, they're my friend. Mm-hmm. So I have no problem with that. So I would say, number one, get a mentor. Number two, get in class and learn the craft of what it is to be a great actor. There's a lot of actors out here in LA, especially, that are pursuing it. So, the thing that's going to make you different is, one, that you're good, and two, that you're invested in yourself. And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of actors that play the idea of who they think the character is,
right?
Versus just being the character. And when we talk about just being the character, it means that, God has made us all unique. We all come from various different backgrounds. We all have different experiences. Use your own experiences. Don't use the experiences that you think this character would have, because when we see it as a director or producer, I can see what feels real and what feels like you're trying to be this thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that has really helped me over the last couple of years as an actor, because, a lot of times you hear people be like, what, I just didn't care anymore. And then I just start booking. And it's not that they didn't care, right, but they realized they weren't going to try to be something else. They were just going to be them. Right. I'm just going to go in this audition. I'm going to be me. And if you like it, great. If you don't, then it is what it is. But I'm just going to be me, because nobody can be you better than you. And you have to realize that, take all the life experiences you have and incorporate them into that character, and all the mannerisms and whatever you do, those are going to look natural. So when they look natural on camera, I can now believe you're this character. Right. And that's what's going to get you a job. And that's what's going to continue to get you jobs, because people are going to say, oh man, he's really good as this character. We should cast him again as a character similar. And then eventually you get an opportunity to do something different. And now you're working.
Love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on social media to follow you?
Instagram, Maurice Mo, M-O Hall, Maurice Mo Hall on Instagram. Twitter's Mo Hall 28. And then, Facebook, just Maurice Hall. So if you type in Maurice Hall, I'm gonna come up somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I love that. Do you want to share anything that you have that you're working on that you like to share?
Yeah. So there's the one thing I'm working on actually, my dad wrote a book about their life and overcoming drug addiction, finding God, and creating a better life for their kids. The book is called Contaminated Seed. I adapted the book to a screenplay now called The Seed. And right now we're working on trying to get funding for it. It's like a $5 million film.
All right.
And I've broken it down to now where I'm going to shoot a short film version of this movie, about 20 minutes. And we're actually going to go in production on that August 13th, here in LA, and we're going to shoot that. I'm super excited about that, but something that's personal, and we're going to use that short as kind of like a proof of concept for investors to, get this money to make this feature, baby, and really tell these stories.
I love it. Well, I can't wait. And congratulations on all that you're doing. I mean, so happy.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me. You're the best. You're the best.
I try. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. Bye, guys.